Hey everyone, welcome to GTM Secrets. Everything go to market, sales, marketing, rev ops, product marketing, you name it. Today I have Austin Fuller from Exiger on the line. He is a genius product marketing expert. I don't want to butcher your background though, so mind sharing a little bit about yourself, man?
Absolutely. So, I've been a product marketer through and through. I actually started my career in sales as an AE and transitioned over to the dark side, to the marketing team, and have been in product marketing ever since. I've worked for companies as small as well under going from 0 to 1 or 0 to 5 million in ARR, all the way up to scaled up to 5, 10, 50, and over $100 million in annual revenue in ARR. So I've been at every stage. Yeah, I've been at every stage from scrappy, we have 5 people working, all the way up to, I have 3, 4 people reporting to me at that part as far as building product marketing and growing and scaling software as a service organizations.
Love it. So again, not ambitious at all.
Yeah.
I also went to the dark side, not specifically product marketing, but going from sales to marketing. So I feel you there.
It's such a great place to start. If you get in and can cut your teeth in sales and learn how to grab people's attention, it's a skill that never stops paying dividends.
I think everybody should spend 1 year cold calling. I really
Amen.
do. You get thick skin, you learn what actually attracts people, hooks them, etc. I wouldn't be the marketer that I am without, hundreds of thousands of awful cold calls. What was that transition for you? So for me, it was, at 19, I was doing 7 figures in revenue, but I couldn't scale anymore because it was all smile and dial, enterprise sales, etc. So when you tap out within your income at 19, it's depressing. What was your transition like?
Yeah, my transition was, I felt like I wasn't doing enough beforehand, right? Because of the smile and dial. And, my career was in that, I was prime in the predictable revenue, get BDRs to slam the phones all day long methodology, right? That was where I was at. And that was how you generated revenue. Like, my leads were literally scraped from white pages. Like, we would have business name, phone number.
You're dating yourself.
I know. Well, it wasn't scraped from the paper version. It was scraped from the online version. It was web scraped. I will clarify.
Good to know.
But, we had business name and phone number. That's it. None of this title and name and departments. You called in and you had no idea what was getting in there. And for me, it was great. Like, that's a great skill to have, learn how to navigate the phone and navigate into a business, find the right people, all of those things. But for me, the big trigger was, I got in there and I would get all these deals moving. But look, at the end of the day, a lot of cold outbound deals don't go to closed won, right? Like, they just don't convert as much. The ones that come in as demo requests are way better. And we would get those. And so my way that I worked it is, hey, how do I find the segments of audience in my territory of companies that convert higher? And then how do I get ahead of it? Whether that, and I'm talking way outside of tactics, more than just going to shows. It's like, what can I tell people in advance? And what are the firmographics and targeting that makes someone more of a proponent to buy? And that's how I got ahead as an AE. That's just being smart. But, there's an entire function dedicated to that for the entire company. And so that's what really interested me, is like, wow, I could go do this. I could go write messaging. I could segment audiences and tailor the messaging to them, and find all of those patterns and develop the content that made people predisposed to want to buy before they got to the salesperson.
Yeah, warm them up before you even talk to them. I think I saw a stat literally this morning. I don't know where it came from, but 70% of the buying cycle is done before they even talk to you.
Yeah, it's even more than, I remember it was 40% and then 60%. Now we're up to 70.
How do they measure that? I have no idea, but I think it sounds about right.
It does.
Here's a fun question. I've had other product marketing guys on. They're awesome, but I've never heard a clear, concise definition of product marketing versus just marketing. Can you take a stab at it?
Sure. In my mind, product marketing is understanding your customers and understanding the magic of the product and marrying the two. that's the function, right? That manifests itself in a ton of different ways, but I have to know the product at a fairly technical level, especially for technical products and technical buying audiences, which is my background primarily for things like cybersecurity, cloud operations and security, and things like that. And now with supply chain, it's a technical audience. So you need to understand both the product, how it functions, the problems it solves, very, very technically. And then you need to understand the audience itself. What are their problems? And be a specialist in both of those areas. It manifests itself in a lot of different ways, in a lot of similar ways as other functions of the marketing team. I'm not the only person that writes messaging, although I would argue you need someone to own core messages about the product and the core story for the product. I'm not the only person that develops ad copy or things like there's also writes trade show booth messages or writes scripts for videos or creates those things. There's brand marketing. There's so many other types of marketing that you can actually do those practices for. But product marketing is specifically, and I would put a wall and a fence around knowing the audience intimately and knowing the product functionality intimately and marrying those two.
Love it. So let's start here. Let's start here. When it comes to product marketing, I think you're in a unique spot. So I'll back up for a second. I love talking to guys like yourself and gals that sell and market really complex, technical, not sexy software in complex sales cycles. And no offense to Exiger, but I don't know that people wake up and they're like, I want to replace my supply chain, transparency, and so forth. Just like no one wakes up, I want to switch out my ERP for shits and giggles.
Exactly. 100%.
I'm in a different category, right? I say de-anonymized traffic. People are like, ooh, that's sexy. That's not really the space that you're in. So knowing that, and same thing with cybersecurity, which I have many clients that do that. How do you overcome that? And how do you turn a product that is technical into something a little bit more sexy and intriguing for enterprise companies? You mentioned before the call or before the podcast that you sell into the government. That's an awful experience, at least in my experience. How do you do that?
Yeah. So a couple of things. One, selling to the government is actually really great. They're fantastic to work with. We love our government customers. But all right. So yes, it's not as easy as like selling a Ferrari, right? Selling supply chain risk management and third-party risk management and supply chain compliance. Like nobody wakes up like really excited necessarily naturally to talk about those things. However, we do solve really, really painful problems. And I think that's where the sexiness comes in, is when you understand the audience and you understand their world. We often, as marketers, I think we're really biased to look in, we think about our product all the time. Mm-hmm. And we think our problem is the biggest problem in the world to solve. But it's not. It's only a tiny sliver of the customer's purview and what they do every day and what they care about. And when you can understand that and place that in the right frame of reference, then you can start to understand like, hey, when the eye of Sauron passes over you and you get attention on your problem, then you have an opportunity to make it really sexy. Or what's great about product marketing, a lot of the things that I do and I make are to educate or to help people open their eyes and broaden their perspective. And so you're really teaching a lot. And I think that's how you make it sexy too, is when you're teaching someone and people have aha moments, like that's very fun as the learner, right? It's fun to go aha and say, oh, I get this. I am now smarter. Thank you, company. Or thank you, Austin, for making me smarter. So those are some ways you can look at it, like from a matter of principle. I think tactically, you've got to solve really difficult problems. That's what makes it sexy. The reason the Ferrari is sexy is because it goes 200 miles an hour. It is not easy to get a 1-ton car to go 200 miles an hour, right? Or a fighter jet. Like these things are cool because they overcome something really, really difficult. And I would argue that if your product is solving a problem that isn't that difficult, it's to the degree that to the degree the problem is difficult, the degree your product will be viewed as sexy.
Fair enough. When it comes to, so you're in the world of go-to-market, right? That's why we're having you on. when it comes to launching a new product, not necessarily specifically at Exiger, because you're what, 2 months into the gig?
Yeah, a few months in. Yep.
Yeah. So go back a bit before that. What were some of the more tactical steps that you took to build awareness and generate buzz around a new product launch?
Yeah, it's great. So I think it's a great question because I've done a ton of product launches. It's, I don't know, between major launches like full products and updates and, just major feature launches, well into the 40s, 50s, maybe even up to 100. It's high. It's a big number. And at Exiger and at previous places, I think it starts with validation. It starts with working with customers very intimately and learning what their problems are. And this is really cliche, but a lot of the success of the launch happens 6 months, 12 months beforehand, if it's major, 12 months beforehand. In the interviews that you conduct, like a lot of my success as a product marketer is determined in the quality of customer interviews that I have to understand the depth and scope of the problem so that we build a really, really good solution. And the best way that I've seen to do it is to making a launch successful is getting with customers really early, working with them lockstep through the whole launch process, whether that's, when you're defining the problem, when you're getting into a beta, or even before that, an alpha, proof of concept, and making sure that they participate in that you're getting that feedback, that you have good customer partners and development partners. Now, granted, you may have to make some concessions, right? You may provide some incentive. They may get to use it for free for a certain amount of time after launch. Like there's all sorts of ways you can game it and make it help people to participate. But that's what makes the launch successful, knowing before you launch it that people are going to use it and that it's going to solve the problem you claim. That's the first principle. I think the other steps, right? So I have a massive spreadsheet that details all sorts of steps from all sorts of parties. That's product marketer, as the product marketer responsible for a launch. You're the quarterback. The problem is you also sometimes are going to have to play wide receiver, right? You're going to throw the ball to yourself because you're a player. You're a quarterback / player. Like you need to execute on a lot of important things in addition to coordinating all of the stuff that goes on outside of you, whether that's making sure sales is enabled and ready and trained. And you may have an enablement department that'll actually do the training, but you have to provide the materials. The product manager may train sales engineering, right? But you're going to write the messaging. You're going to write ads. You may not run the ads. You may hand them off, but you're going to have to write the copy. So as far as like getting in the weeds of actually executing the launch and making it successful, is just recognize that your life is probably going to be very, very busy and potentially difficult, but you need to meticulously track it. Like you have got to, a project management professional like PMP certified manage this thing in a very, very detailed way to make sure that everyone knows what they're doing, that you know what you're doing, and that everything gets done on time. I don't know if you want to go into deeper parts about product launches, but those are the things that I've really seen making it successful. I think when you want to get into like marketing tactics that help make a launch successful, the most compelling things are going to be word of mouth, especially at the beginning. Like if you want groundswell, like you have your beta customers, hopefully, that are already using it. And hopefully that can bleed over into your customer advisory board, because hopefully you have one. Maybe you don't. Maybe you're a little early. Maybe you have 3-4 customers only. I'm not sure. But if you're small, if whatever little bit of ground you can get, you need to have the product in people's hands, because nothing is stronger than the word of mouth. Hey, I use this thing. You should use it. Or B, so you reach out, you bring someone to you who's like, okay, this is interesting. And you have someone else outside that is a peer that validates it for you. I know that's really simple. That's not earth shattering, but the amount of times people launch it thinking, hey, we can just run more ads. We can make more content about the product. And, if we build it, people will come. Like just build what people want and bring the customers in early, and you will be fine.
Talk about a customer advisory board.
Yeah.
Obviously, even at Identity, I have 3 or 4 key advisors. Love it. Plus my VC, very good advisors. Customer advisory is self-explanatory in the name. But at what point do you build it? How do you give them incentive to join and provide feedback? Can you give any context there?
Sure. So I had the opportunity to set up the customer advisory board at several places, and at Exeger, we're continuing to evolve and mature ours. We're very lucky to have so many wonderful customers actually that are willing to participate. I think the first step is make sure that you deliver, make sure that you're delivering and solving problems for people. That's like baseline. Like, you're not going to have people want to participate if you don't have satisfied customers. So let's set that aside. Let's assume you're doing a good job. Your product works and you're solving business problems for them. I would say the first thing is, so our customer advisory board meets. I'm not sure how frequently. It's, like I said, it's kind of in flux right now. It's about semi-annually, and we're at the scale where we can have people meet in person. We can have a big in-person meeting. We make a big deal about this. People fly in. It's like think of it as like a VI, kind of what you would do for like a really, really niche, like leadership meeting at a trade show organization, right? Like, a lot of times they'll have those VIP events for the key members for an association or something. Like, it's very, very exclusive. And we invite the customers that are having some of the biggest impact. I think everything you do in product marketing is cross-functional, but if you want to have success, you've got to work with customer success and account management to know who's realizing the most value, because people that are benefiting want to share, right? So who are the most successful? What are some big results that we've done? Get those people to participate. One, it's very exclusive. There's food, there's all these things. We have a nice set agenda, and then we put people on. I think that's another important part, is like a very big part of our customer advisory board process is promoting the leadership of our customers. I mean, the products that we sell may not initially to the layperson look very sexy. So cutting your landed costs by 23% if you're a global enterprise is a huge deal. That's a massive amount of margin for a 30,000 person company, a Fortune 500 company.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's the stuff that makes careers. And so we want people telling their story. We want people, and by the way, our product is not what gets it done. I think everyone's familiar with like the hero's journey framework of telling a story. And I can't remember when it was, but it was pretty early on in my career, probably around 2014, maybe 15 or 16. I can't remember who I heard it from, but like, they went through the hero's journey and they said the problem is that people make the product about the product, the hero in the story. The customer's the hero. The product is the sword that slays the dragon, right? So you have to have the self-awareness too, to realize, okay, our product is cool, but they're doing a lot of stuff outside of just running our software to actually affect these outcomes. And so we want that story told. We want to magnify our customers and make sure they're seen in the industry as the experts that they are, because they do a whole lot of stuff outside of our software to make these big changes. And so if you're looking at like tactics, how can you promote your customers? If you're big enough and have the budget, you get with industry publications and like put them in there. Have them talk about the whole experience. Sure, you may or may not get a mention, but can you put them on? Can you have them be promoted in the industry? Can you have them speak, and can you pay to have them speak at trade shows and industry events? Like, there's a lot of things that you can do as a marketer to put people on. And guess what? Even if you don't have the budget for that, you can invite them on a podcast. You could make, right? That's a good strategy. You can make videos that showcase their thing. And I'm not talking about a case study video that talks about how good your product is. I'm talking about how can you showcase them, like make them something that they could then take and shop around. Like if you made them a sizzle reel, for example, I'll just riff right here for a second with you on tactics. If you could make them like a sizzle reel for like, I don't know, keynote speaking that they could then shop around to other industry events like that, they will remember you for that, because that's not it might be easy for you to do in marketing because you have a content team. But for us, like a supply chain executive doesn't have a team of video editors to come and film them and do all that stuff, right? We would do that a lot at Kion, my previous employer. You know, how we got a ton of ROI out of shows by sitting people down and making videos of them talking about the cool things they were doing with and without our platform. And that, like having that face-to-face time and being able to create that content, one, was tons of insights for messaging and problems and what's going on in the market and what people care about. But two, was also great to be able to give without expectation that we're going to receive anything. And like people really care about that. Like people are people. whether they work in a Fortune 500 company or a small startup. If you help people out, if they will want to reciprocate. Like the reciprocity is real. So think value add and think about how you can put people on and get them to participate with you. Because again, a customer advisory board is an ask. I'm asking for you to tell me, what should I be building, right? What should I be saying? What should I be doing for our company to continue to grow and make money? I would, there's a lot of people that expect something in return for that. And if you can get ahead of that and have them already willing to reciprocate, it's much, much easier.
Yeah, not only are you saying, hey, can you continue to pay me, but now can you help me market and get better?
Yeah. By the way, thanks for paying me, but can you help me run my business? What should I be doing? So, but that's the really like raw part. But but if you're doing the customer advisory stuff right, in all honesty, like it should be much more customer centric. What are your problems? What else can we build for you? What else can we solve for you? It's not, hey, tell me how to. Ultimately, that is the output, right? These 7 customers that are out of our 10 best customers all have this problem. We don't solve it yet. We should solve it.
Yeah.
And, those customers become your beta customers for your next launch, by the way. Like this is all self-fulfilling. This is as cliche as it sounds, this is a flywheel, right? If you do the voice of the customer stuff right, it should be a flywheel of momentum that propels and helps you to scale.
Let's be honest. I've had customers even on the podcast. I've had podcast guests turn into customers. It all comes full circle.
For sure.
I think those are super insightful. Now, I have 2 more questions for you. Next one is, think about your early days in product marketing and product launches in particular. What would you have changed in how you made your product launches? And I'll preface that. A lot of people look at a product launch as run ads to a landing page, get an email opt-in, email nurture them, and then let them know when crap's available, right? What are some of the mistakes that you made that you would have changed?
Yeah, so not thinking far enough ahead. That's exactly how I thought. It's like, oh, cool, we'll tell people about. I assumed that they cared, right? And I mean, it's only become more competitive for attention. So the huge assumption that people cared that I could grab email, that I could, run ads to a landing page, get people to subscribe for, hey, know when it launches, or sometimes the product launch, the landing page is, hey, sign up to see more about this product. And we just don't launch it to them until it's launched. But that activity, which I've certainly done, based off the assumption that someone cares enough to just like come and opt in and like come and like cares enough later for your solution, like, hey, we launched this and I know you opted in for it. Really, really good product launches get ahead. And not only do they get ahead, they get way ahead of the customer and they educate people why they should care. You should be able to produce content leading up that you run at, like you should have audiences segmented, you should be retargeting, and it should be content that wants to be consumed. It's not opt-in, it's not performance marketing conversion focused. What we want to do is have people consume and learn and be ready so that they are again predisposed to buying the product. And how can you how can you either teach someone a new point of view that they didn't know before, or shift their point of view from where it is to where it needs to be? A lot of times that's an approach to how you solve a problem, right? There's a status quo most of the time when you're launching a product of how someone solves this or lives with it today. And so how do you educate about that problem to the point where they understand, hey, I don't have to live with this anymore, or the status quo way of me solving this problem is inferior and I should justify spending budget to solve this problem. And this is the best solution to do it.
Yeah, challenging a new way of thinking. And yeah. I do fully buy into the, hero's journey that you mentioned earlier. You're not the hero. Stop inflating your ego. You're a tool to help them become a hero. Here's my last question, and I'd love to get as granular as you can.
Sure.
I don't want to be a podcast that says, hey, AI is changing marketing. Get on board with AI, right? Like it's been overdone. Yes, you should use AI. How do you see AI specifically changing product marketing?
Yeah, there's a couple of things that I think have immediately happened. So one is for people to just understand like what AI is, like at a very basic level, the current generative AI we have is a series of predictive algorithms that predicts, like if you want it to generate words, right? If you're asking for it to write something, it predicts what those words should be. The model that predicts those things is getting more and more accurate by the day, right? It's not a full sentient like Skynet thinking and has its own will.
Yeah.
It's just trying to predict, right? So now that we've level set that, I think what it does is it has, and how it will change product marketing is I think people are going to be more apt to, all right, so here's a really good example. I just got a cold email yesterday that I didn't respond to because it's not a business case that I'm focused on right now. But I got a cold email that I thought was interesting, where it's an AI company that will just take recorded sales calls, demos, all sorts of things, kind of like Gong, but it will transcribe them into messaging. It'll transcribe them into battle cards. It's basically taking the voice of it's automating voice of the customer translation, like all of the tedium of having to listen to all of it.
Yeah.
Again, I feel like this is a pretty cliche answer. It's going to take away a lot of me sitting there listening and writing down notes and aggregating them all. But what this is going to do is it's going to push product marketers to actually get in front of their customers. Like hopefully they are, but there are people I know and there are companies I know that don't regularly meet with their customers, like that are not interviewing them in a very disciplined and organized approach. Like, I have a list of questions. I have a sheet and a structure for like just about every stage of someone becoming a customer, or like at post sale, or even prospects and pre-sales and things like that. If you're doing win-loss analysis and stuff like that, and post-mortem interviews. So I think because people don't want to do that work of listening to the recordings back, taking all the notes. If there's something that does that, great. That allows that's going to lower the barrier entry for product marketers to listen to customers. And two, and I think more people are going to. I think without that tedium required to get a valuable output, I think more people will go, and it'll have them be able to conduct better customer interviews. So we'll see that go up. The other thing is that because of that, messaging is going to get better. For me, 2024 and going into 25, my mantra is simplify. Like every part of messaging, if you do a recap with me a year from now, like the Exeger website, our collateral, everything is going to be clear, straightforward, and simple, because people just don't have time to internalize and translate messages. Like they just don't have time. I need to know what it is. In the military, in the government, the term is bluff. The acronym is bluff, bottom line up front. And that, every document has that. They starts with the bluff, and you need to have your bluff right up front. And I think that AI is helping people to write messages that are more straightforward, that are clearer and more direct, and resonate better, because they'll be able to know their customers better.
Have you ever used, so one of the coolest use cases that I've seen and haven't fully tested a little bit is in product analytics in particular, like we use Mixpanel. Mixpanel has a tool, I forget what it's called, Signals maybe, where it is supposed to predict churn and specifically what features provide what ROI and what you could potentially build to increase your MRR, ARR, whatever. Have you ever tried anything like that?
I haven't, but I can definitely see where that can, like, look, there are leading indicators of churn, and there is a big disconnect, right? Like, so there's a lot of disciplines of product marketing. Like in some orgs, they're very go-to-market focused, and others, they're very actually product focused. Like they carve off a lot of product manager responsibilities and put it with a product marketer. Like, hey, how, what features are they using? How long are they using it? Where do people exit and bail on the tool? All sorts of metrics like that. And driving the adoption actually is the responsibility of the product marketer. And I think for both use cases, a software like that would be very powerful. So yeah, I can't do anything but pontificate just because I haven't used it, but there are a lot of leading indicators of churn that just aren't correlated, right? There's no one place to look at them, or there's no one tool that's pulling them in and considering them. And again, that's another great thing about, AI, because it's prediction algorithms, like it's really good at predicting. And so if you can put good data into it, you can know things. Well, I don't want to say know things. You can make more accurate predictions, which, we all want to do. We all want to know the future.
I think a lot of marketers have gotten to, they haven't logged in for 7 days, so they're probably going to churn. You can get a lot more specific than that. What is the activation point where if they do these 3 things and they tend to stay, etc. And I see how AI could help to predict that. The one I'm skeptical of is it tells you what features to build. How the hell would it know that if it's not even built yet?
Yes, that is the challenge, right?
I am skeptical, but it's pretty cool. Again, we use Mixpanel, not affiliated. I'm sure Amplitude and Pendo and all of those are coming out with some of the same stuff.
Yeah, Pendo's the one that I've used before, pretty regular. At almost every company, actually, I've used Pendo, but
Pendo's pretty good, but pricey for a startup.
Yeah, Pendo's, yeah. It's not something I would, if you're under 5 million in ARR, I don't know that I would consider Pendo for sure. But yeah, like as you scale, I think it's a great tool, very capable. But and when I've used it primarily, this goes back to more of like the product manager peeled off responsibilities of product marketing.
Yeah.
It all depends on your organization's approach. But like a lot of the times when I used it, it was to convert users who weren't activating. Like people would sign up and there would be some users that need to get in and they just weren't. So like onboarding workflows, the walkthroughs, like here's how to use the tool. Like that's a lot of what I've used Pendo for example. It does a whole lot more than that. I'm selling the tool short, but like those are the use cases that I've used it for.
It is so expensive because it's like, so we use Chameleon for onboarding and we use Mixpanel for, analytics. And they're both more SMB or startup friendly.
Yep.
Pendo is the best of both worlds rolled into one, but you're paying for it, right?
You do pay for it. They're headquartered here in Raleigh, North Carolina, actually. Their office is, their office is about 20 minutes from my house.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the... Shout out to Pendo.
And, we are more like me. I've name dropped quite a few techs, both in this episode and others. I'm a tech nerd. Austin, really appreciate you coming on, man, spending time with us. I know you're going to say LinkedIn. Everyone does, but where's the best place for people to connect with you?
Yeah, so connect with me on Instagram at AustFuller, AustFuller. Please do that. And then of course, LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn. Those 2 platforms are the places where I create content the most. A lot of the times I'm just sharing some of the things that I learn as I go through this product marketing journey and share tactics and things that work. So that's what I try to do.
Awesome. Well, go connect with Austin, everybody. Great at product marketing. Really, once again, really appreciate you coming on, man.
Awesome. Thanks, Stephen.